Hi folks, this is another little mini episode. Um, just wanted to talk a little bit about something that's been going on currently, because I think it's slightly relevant to the interests of folks on the channel, and I guess I wanted to just bring that up, maybe start a few conversations on that. In the event that this is the first time you've encountered a video of mine. We do a very, very small little channel where we do Let's Plays of retro video games, focusing on the silver age of role-playing games, and talk about RPG design, basically. And we do these ad hoc chats, usually on Google Sheets, in between these Let's Plays, where we sort of break down elements of it. But that's not what this episode is today. The first caveat I want to put on this episode is this episode is likely to contain quite strong language, and swearing. So if you're at work, or you got the kids around, or whatever, or you just don't like that sort of thing, it might be worth be shutting off this one early, even by the standards of the channel. And then the other thing to say, unfortunately. Some of the opinions here, because I'm going to opine on stuff more than ever, I run the risk of losing one or two people who've been following the channel. So to say, if I do lose you, I stand by the views, but it's nothing that contentious. But if I lose anyone, I just want to say thank you for sticking around up to this point, and all the best. But yeah. What is this all about? Well, it's about this. The Game Awards. Now, I don't ordinarily follow anything to do with the Game Awards. To me, there are basically everything can be grouped into two sets of reactions when you tell people. You mentioned the Game Awards. The first, reaction set being the Game Awards. Isn't that like the video game equivalent of the Oscars or something? And then the second one, where the reaction is, oh, the Game Awards, that totally creatively bankrupt corporate backslapping event where all the CEOs come around in their limos and talk about how great they are while swigging champagne flutes of their own cum. I'm in the latter camp. I don't pay much heed to it. It's nonsense. It's only ever a problem, and why would I follow it? But it came to my attention this year. Lots of people do follow it. For lots of people, like there's an element of prestige. I mean, I'm not gonna. If you've got a game released and you're like, oh, I wish I could get on the Game Awards. It's like, I mean, that's part of marketing. I'm not here to deal with marketing. I can just sit here and merrily hate it. Well, I'm interested in making good games. But if you want to do that, that's fine. But as a fan, like, it's only ever part of the problem. But people like it, and. Well, I don't even know if they like it. I think just for a lot of people, it just boils down to just base laziness of like, and indeed an environment where like unbiased critique that you can rely on is a lot harder to come by than it was, 30 years ago. Games publications are either very much in the pocket and on the payroll, or else you're relying on how many people like it on Steam, or pick your platform of choice, and just going on the mostly positive, mostly negative, which you might say, well, that's a good way to do things, but that's the sort of logic that's got us, a generation of young people whose favourite band is fucking Queen. I'm not saying Queen are bad, but like, a generation of people shouldn't like something that is like entirely regressive and was done 30 years before they were born. that is fucking tragic. And I would seriously hope that, you know, a young Freddie Mercury would have looked at that and screamed in horror. But anyway, the point is, so why am I ranting about this now? Well, sometimes you see, I don't know, like there's moments where you think like, oh, could this be a point where people recognise that maybe this is nonsense? Like, is there like a turning point? And something has come to my attention on this, and I think it's a turning point, potentially. I'm going to see, and I'm going to ask you all in the comments to have a think about, you know, and to say in the comments, and because I love comments more than, you know, I always say on the channel, I don't need you to like or subscribe, although I must admit it is kind of addictive when people do it. But comments are absolutely great, because then I know there's a conversation, and that's the funnest bit of the channel, is reading the comments. What do you think of this? The nominees. We're going to view all categories. I don't care on all of these. There's one category I want to zoom in, and it's this one. It's the best independent game, best indie game. Now, there are a couple of nominees there. We're not here to talk about whether or not these games are good. You know, I'm not going to be talking about the merits of the individual game or which of these deserves to win in this category. Not that it matters, because it'll have no difference on, you know, as to which game wins. The standard fucking Battle of the Bands contest that it always is. But to me, one of these games sticks out like a fucking sore thumb, and it's an RPG. And it's this one. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Now, we will be covering this on the channel. Some of you might have even seen a few of the episodes, because I did put some out early, and I took them down because I thought, you know, I don't want to be competing with people for Clair Obscur views when it came out. You know, there's other more professional channels you can go and watch a Let's Play of that on. There will be a Let's Play of this coming out in January. I'm not here to talk about what I think of the game. In some of my other videos where I talk about mechanics, I make reference to Clair Obscur, so you can know that there are things that I really like about it and there are things that I dislike about it. But that's not what we're here to discuss here. In what fucking world is Clair Obscur an indie game? Like, what's this? Outstanding creative and technical, a game made outside the traditional publisher system. Clair Obscur had, not all permanent admittedly, but nevertheless, I think it had like 300 people working on it. It got corporate funding, which I actually understand to be in part due to family, you know, arrangements, but whatever. I think it was something like 50 million euros or some shit. It's not an indie game. It's like it's. I think at best it's double A. I'm not even sure. Is it not triple A? Is this? You know, I mean, we're comparing, and by the way, I've still yet to play Blueprints, but like, from what I understand of it, you compare these two. What on earth is this about? Like what's it? What's it doing there? And again, I mean, I can't stress enough with this that, like, you know, I mean, we've covered. It's a different age now. Like, now, AAA, it, as much as anything else, it can almost mean years in development in a sense that, like, you know, there's no point calling Final Fantasy VII AAA, the original game from like 96, 97, because AAA, you know, like the games with the biggest budgets were the Final Fantasies, the Marios, the Zeldas, but they were still operating on quite a quick turnaround. And the teams would still have been much smaller than teams today. It's just less, you know, fewer elements with which to put together that need less individual attention. But we don't mind covering, I suppose, the point is, I mean, hell, we cover Clair Obscur, but like we don't mind covering mainstream games in the channel. When we're covering indie games in the channel, it's almost kind of by accident, because you generally, especially in the age of the channel that we cover, which is like the 90s and early 2000s, you'd sort of expect the mainstream games to be better because they've got more to play with. Which I guess is kind of the whole point of why you would have a best independent game fucking section, because you recognise that there are challenges that some of these will be up against that, you know, AAA is not. I just, but I mean, like I say, this is not a pop at Clair Obscur. But like, well, you know, what we can have next? Is it going to be like, you know, Nine Kings versus Battlefield, or like what is it? It just seems ridiculous, even within the standards. I mean, it's always been a ridiculous thing, this, and you know, just to be disregarded and, well, to be not disregarded, to be regarded with absolute derision. But if you watch this and you're like, if you're, you know, following the Game Awards, and Clair Obscur is sitting there in the independent games category with its hundreds and hundreds of people working on it, and its AAA graphics, and like people coming out of Ubisoft on it, and like millions of corporate funding, it's like, and you're like, that's an indie game. What are you like that? Is this a blip? Or is there something more fundamentally wrong with this? And I guess the reason that I think it's a problem is that the more all-encompassing, because the thing is with all this, most of the time the games that win these damn awards is so fucking bland, because it comes down to like which game had the most sales most of the time. Yeah, they pick the occasional darling because they've decided, but the darlings that they tend to pick are ones where smaller studios, rather than doing something inventive and interesting and on point with, like, you know, sort of lower level graphics or what have you, or when they try and ape the big corporate monoliths by going with graphics. You know, like, I don't want to, it's just like it's just obscene, really, the way that they caught that. And of course it creates this negative cycle, in my view, that the more popular the mediocre games get. I mean, like Grand Theft Auto, let's slag off Grand Theft Auto, but there's a lot of interest in Grand Theft Auto from people, you know, whatever it is, Grand Theft Auto 6, 7, I don't even know, I don't follow, but like from people who don't normally play video games. That's the one where they're going to step in and be like, oh, maybe I'll play it, maybe that's the thing. There's no suggestion, no review that, like, of whether Grand Theft Auto, I'm going to call it 6, apologies if I'm out, whether Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be any good. Might be terrible. But by reinforcing these large, you know, IP and products and this AAA way of thinking, like, that's the one that will draw people in, and that will be the standard. And then the other games around it, like, you know, aside from whether or not the, you know, Grand Theft Auto 6 is any good, other games will be judged by things like this on how close they are to Grand Theft Auto 6. It's just, I think it's I really do think it's a complete waste of time. I want to do another video, a longer video with this. That talks a little bit about the state of the industry in terms of, it's not really part of the channel. Maybe I'm getting outside my wheelhouse here, but I think there are problems with the way we are invited to consume media these days. This is the phrase for an old man, but yeah, I think, like, how do we get to a point where we can have reliable, it's not exactly sources of truth, but like reliable pieces of just reliable critiques that you can trust and access, that are independent from the industry that they are essentially monitoring, measuring, and assessing. There's of course the classic XKCD problem here of like, there are 8 billion, different online review things that are all rubbish. Somebody should create one unified one that, is of high quality, and then suddenly you've got 8,000,000,001 of these useless things. So I don't really know how we solve that problem, aside from the fact that, like, it's you're going to fight a battle from the people who fund the video game industry. I don't think that's wanted. I think measured certain success is this is why indie exists. And again, to go back to to the start of this is not to slag off any of these games, not even Clair Obscur. I've no objections to there being a big, well-funded AAA RPG. I encourage it. Good. Like, let's have more RPGs, and Clair Obscur has not just a lot of retro vibes, it also fixes some of the issues. I mean, it loses its way in others, but like, it fixes some of the issues that the retro RPGs it's inspired by had. So I'm not dunking on the game, but can you still take, if you ever did, can you still take this seriously when that's there? And what does it mean for indie developers? If even, in what little spot in these, let's pick one. Okay, best audio design. Right. Look at the fucking state of that. And fair enough, I wouldn't necessarily have nominated Nine Kings for its audio design, but this tells you something about. Incidentally, I'm not really sure that belongs there. But anyway, it's by the by. Maybe these were even worse. I don't know. This tells you about the sort of things that. What is this category? Thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. Okay. Well, at least that's. I mean, these all look to be indie, so fair enough. It's difficult enough for. I'm sorry, Blueprints. I've not played you. I've got no loyalty to this yet. I heard it's pretty good, but we'll have to see. What hope does Blueprints have when the categories, it's just, it's this. And I've said before with this that, and it's a bit of a baity phrase, but I stand by it. The future is pixel art. what do I mean by that? I mean, I don't really mean the future is pixel art, but what I mean to say is that in a game that is pixel art, you are much, much, much more likely to see risky invention that might change the future of games and how we make games and like what the established, you know, rules are in 15 years' time. You're much more likely to see that in a pixel art game than you will in Battlefield 6. Because those smaller, you know, 1 to 4, well, you know, less than 10 people teams, fewer than 10 people, have got more capacity, I think, to dream and a greater willingness to fail, to take a risk. And I'm not here, like, I mean, it's easy to just dunk on EA, but it's just different with when you're in AAA, that, you know, EA have got long-term employees who have, you know, not all of whom by any stretch are going to be on like millions of dollars a year. Like, there's lots of employees who are going to be working there who are not that far above the breadline, who have got gas bills to pay. And I think that, you know, I don't feel like I have a responsibility to make sure that all the workers at EA can pay their gas bills by buying EA products. I don't think, you know, the products that they make are not very good. Why would I pay money for that when I can give that money to other, you know, companies that are doing more interesting things? I was about to highlight Clair Obscur, but of course I received that one for free from a friend, so and a friend and viewer. So thank you again, by the way, for that. But yeah, but if you're like in the CEO or you're on the board of EA, then that ideally, I mean, I don't know whether it is a consideration. I don't know who those people are. But it should be a consideration of like, how do we stop our staff from losing their jobs? And the normal way to do that is well, let's pump out something incredibly safe that we know will get sales. You know, obviously there are many things that make that a huge oversimplification. Well, I mean, it's fucking late stage capitalism. It just is. That's not to be all, this has suddenly become a socialist channel. There's I always hate using the idiom or expression, there's more than one way to skin a cat. You know, like, as long as you're not being a dick to people, then, you know, whatever political explanation you want, you know, fine. We can still have a pint. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree that, you know, shareholders are taking more and more money year on year from the industry, and the things that give the more money to shareholders tend to be more creatively bankrupt. Is that what this means? Is that just like, sorry, going back to a best independent game? Is it just now anything that doesn't have a shareholder? Like, like, I mean, I don't know whether they do have shareholders. Haven't looked up whether they're a publicly limited company or whatever. But because if that is the bar, then even more reason to just throw this in the fucking sea. Yeah. Right, well, this was meant to be a 5-minute rant, 24 minutes in. But I just wanted to kind of throw this out there because I think it is thought-provoking. And since we are a channel that is focused on solo, small team, or at the very least really indie-focused game developers, I just think it would be remiss not to call this out. So, yeah. Anything else that's worth saying at this point? I think we are still in the middle of our Final Fantasy IX playthrough. We've had a few comments, a few more subscribers to the channel. Thank you very much to everyone who has. I'm stuck in two minds now with this of whether I want people to subscribe or not. Because on one hand, it's like really good to say like, oh, don't worry about subscribing. It gives you some integrity. And then every time I see somebody who's done it, I'm like, oh, new subscriber. So I don't know where I stand on that. There's some other games coming up soon, and I'm going to get some more videos out in the next week or two, which cover some element. It may not be a systems one, because there's a game I'm covering on the channel at the moment that will come out next year, February, or late January, that has really provoked a few things. It's an old classic from, I'm going to say, from the Silver Age or thereabouts, yeah. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.